We are back on MorningLine. As you see on the screen there, we're talking about Southern ghost stories, Southern. And we've got the theme music to go with it with Allen Sircy, who's written several books on some ghost stories here in the South. Several of the towns, everything from Gallatin, Franklin, Murfreesboro. He tells me now he's working on one in Nashville.
Yes, sir.
And we've got Tom waited through the break. Let's take a phone call from him. Tom, good morning. Hi, Tom.
Hello, guys. How's it going?
Good. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, I've been around for a while. I'm going to turn 75 in January of next year.
Okay.
But anyway, like back in the day, I got called a hippie. And I said, I don't even know what that is. You're going to have to define that.
Yeah.
What is a hippie? Same thing with a ghost. I would like to know what exactly is a ghost. Before I believe in something, you're going to have to explain to me what it is you're asking me to believe in. So what, in the most simple terms, is a ghost?
I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
that, Tom. You right on. How would you define it? And I bet you people may have different definitions of it.
Yeah, it's all in what you believe. It's strange. I met an empath when I was working on the Gallatin book, and she can sense and feel things I can't see or feel. And she was telling me that the spirits that are in some of these buildings we've been in, they were raised very spiritual, they were very religious at a young age, raised in the church, and when they die, they feel they can't go to the light, they're not worthy. So I don't know, but that theory, it makes the most sense to me of all that I've heard.
Would you tell him, I guess what he's looking for maybe is what a lot are, is a ghost, okay, is it something that you're going to be able to see? Is it something maybe you won't see, but you'll see maybe a coffee cup that you put over here and moved over there? Is a ghost something that will talk to you, or could it take various different forms so it's hard to define?
It's all the above. It's very hard to define. You could see an apparition, you could see a cup move, you could see a shadow in the corner of your eye. There's all kinds of, it's really, you can't explain it. It's just weird things that happen. I mean, I've captured voice recordings in places. I was at Rosemont in Gallatin talking about my little boy being born, and on my digital recorder, I hear a lady say, "Oh, good." I've been at Stones River Battlefield in Murfreesboro, and I was trying to talk to a soldier in the slaughter pens where a lot of men died. And I kept asking these questions, getting nothing. Finally, I said, "You want me to leave you alone?" And he goes, "Yeah." So I was probably just bothering the poor guy.
That's right. So you just literally heard that then?
Yeah, on my recording, I played it back when I got home and said, "Yeah."
And who were you talking to at that point?
It was a soldier. I assume it was a soldier at the Stones River Battlefield in Murfreesboro.
And so you were just exploring then,
sir.
and then whatever. And what were you recording at that point?
It's a digital recorder, a simple digital
you were
recorder.
just walking through the area, or were you
I kind of
talking to
sat
someone?
down, and I had an EMF meter which detects electromagnetic fields.
Now, are you asking questions out in the open there? Or
Yes, sir. It's just me like I'm talking to the thin air.
So you're like, so is anyone out here? Or can you tell anything?
But I was getting some readings on my EMF meter that led me to believe something was kind of around me, and that's why I started asking questions and talking.
Interesting. So, does any of that stuff creep you out, or you view it as fun, and it's not something that should scare people?
I've never really been scared.
Yeah.
I've been startled a time or two, but nothing. Like I believe that there's really nothing evil out there that's going to hurt me.
Yeah.
So, like I said earlier, it's just a handful of places in the whole Southeast I've been to where something mean's going on. Mostly it's just playful and mischief.
Yeah, it's benevolent ghosts or whatever. I wonder, though, again, we talk about whether or not something's more scary or not. And yes, certainly the battlefields is a place that I thought, as you do Nashville, would be maybe the old prison over there with old Sparky and the electric chair and the death row that's over there. I've been there. I went back there years ago. And of course, that was the facility that was used for the filming of the Tom Hanks movie, The Green Mile, you may recall. And, that area, and I've walked down there. I've seen where the death chamber and the electric chair was. It's all kind of torn down. I don't even know what's there now. That was years ago. But you would think an area like that, would that be ripe for...
Oh, yeah.
You think?
Well, I've been over there to try to talk to people. And
have you? Have you been there?
I've heard stories and legends. I've been up there once or twice, but I've been ushered away because before the tornado, it was still used by the sheriff's department or the city for something.
Storage or whatever.
You couldn't go in there.
Yeah.
And but I've heard rumors and there's legends of things happening. They see things, hear things, but I haven't been there to see for myself.
Okay. And then you hear some of the other publicized, more well-known ghost stories that media and people have written. The Bell Witch. that kind of stuff. Well, I know you don't deal with that much, or maybe you do in one of yours. I don't know.
The
if
Bell
you
Witch has
have.
been so overdone.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
been movies about it.
Right, exactly.
And it's the same story. My friend went there and took a rock from the cave, and she wrecked on her car, or had a car wreck on the way home.
Yeah.
Everybody has that same story. It's just they know somebody who got in a wreck and took a rock or something silly like that, and kind of
Right.
what's truth, what's fiction. I've kind of stayed away from it.
I'm someone who kind of puts a lot of weight into coincidences, but sometimes, I mean, I try to think in my life, I don't really pay close attention one way or the other. I could have a ghost in front of me and probably not even see it. But I mean, I think that every once in a while there's things that you can't explain one way or the other. Kind of like, do you liken ghost stories to UFOs?
I don't know. I mean, I've never seen a UFO,
Yeah.
but I have seen a ghost. So
You think you
that's-
have seen? Tell me when you saw a ghost. Now you've talked about you've heard some recordings and you've picked up some electromagnetic field. What did you see once?
Well, I wrote the book for Gallatin in 2019,
Okay.
and I was back up there. I've done some fundraising for this place called Rosemont. It's a historic place up here on Southwater. And I was up there the other day, actually back in April, to see the caretaker, and he wasn't there. I walked around back to see if his car was there, and it wasn't. So I kind of glanced over to this banquet area, and I saw a guy in a fedora looking out the window, like a side view. And I looked back and he was gone. And I'm thinking, nobody should be in there. So I messaged the caretaker. I said, hey, tell me I'm crazy. I just saw a guy in a fedora back there in the banquet hall, reception area. He said, well, you're not crazy. Folks have seen a guy in a fedora back there before. And supposedly, it's a fairly newer ghost from what I've been told. It's a man who passed away in the 70s or 80s. And during that time, that was a garage. They've since torn it down and built a reception area. But he would go back there and watch UT football. He would hang out back there when his wife was fussing at him. That was his escape.
Like his man
cave.
cave. Yeah. And so that he was there just, do you imagine he was just hanging out? Just looking. But okay, so, and you know, I believe you, but you're certain you were, I don't know from what distance, you looked up and you are certain it wasn't a reflection from something, you know, outside off the window. You are pretty darn certain that you saw something in that window.
Yeah, and I try to debunk things. Like I took pictures, I walked around thinking maybe the leaves or the trees or some reflection of the sun. Maybe there was an explanation for what I saw. But I know I saw a guy in a fedora. It was really, really strange. And then when the caretaker told me that other folks have seen him too, and it kind of, maybe I'm not crazy.
No, I mean, maybe, well, I guess it's just interesting. And like I said, I believe you saw something there for sure. Was that the only time you've ever seen one?
Yeah, it's the only thing I've ever seen. Because I always told people, I've never seen a ghost. I've heard things, I've seen weird things I can't explain. Never seen a ghost until April. And now I can say I saw a ghost.
Well, and to me, that gives you, in my opinion, more credibility. You write ghost stories and you're like, you admit, candidly, until this most recent one, that you've seen what you think might be evidence of one, but you've never seen an actual apparition of some type, and now you admit that, yeah. Well, do you think movies like Ghostbusters are, and you know, there's going to be another one coming out, I think a third or fourth one. What role do they play in the consciousness of it? You know, the whole idea of seeking out ghosts.
Well, it's funny. I did some ghost tours in Gallatin this year, and like I always tell folks, don't cross the strings.
I know. See, that's a classic. I mean, I don't know if you know. I just love the movie Ghostbusters, especially the original one. So, what are some other ones that you want to talk about? Because that's what we're doing this morning.
Well, Franklin, I alluded to earlier. There's it's not a ghost story. It's about Frankenstein.
Okay.
Back in 1830, Mary Shelley published the book Frankenstein.
Sure.
Well, during that time period, all these scientists and crackpot doctors, they want to see if they could revive a body too. So there's a doctor named Ferdinand Stith. He's from Pennsylvania, but he had an office there where the courthouse is in Franklin, right there on the square. There's an old wooden building. That's where Dr. Stith practiced medicine. Well,
I think I know. Are you talking about on the square there?
On the square.
It's still there. It's historic.
Right where the courthouse is, yes. This is back in 1830. The courthouse was built in the 1860s. This is before it was built.
Okay, and so, yeah, and that's where it was. Is there still a remnant of it there now?
Oh, no, the doctor's office is gone. They erased that.
I know, but I mean, there
built
were
it.
some old historic things that have been salvaged. I didn't know if they salvaged that one. But where the courthouse is where his office was.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
And he made a deal with a young man who was about to be hanged. The hanging field was over where the new Franklin Police Department is on Columbia Pike.
Gotcha.
So he made the deal with the young man, and then he took the remains after the hanging to his office there where the courthouse is, and he hooked electric current to his temples. So he hooked him up. All of a sudden, his muscles start twitching, starts flailing on the table,
Right.
and the sheriff is like, "Okay, that's enough. Let him go." Because they were worried he might actually bring him back. You know, the current just stimulates your muscles and makes you
Sure,
move.
it makes you twitch.
Now we know what it is, but back in the 1830s,
They thought
maybe they could revive people.
Holy
And it
cow.
didn't just happen in Franklin. It was everywhere. All the people in America who were fascinated with it. It's called galvanism, with electric current, and people want to experiment and play with it. And he was the guy in Franklin, the Dr. Frankenstein, there on the square.
Wow. Okay. And he had made a deal with the guy saying, when you die, I'd like to try to revive you or whatever. And the sheriff let him go that far. But back then, they didn't know what the electric current was actually doing with the twin. They thought it might bring him back to life.
Yeah, there's no movies with all
course.
books. And Frankenstein, everybody's reading Frankenstein because he just came out. I thought, I want to try this, and that's what he did.
Yeah. Now, the guy was hung, did you say, right?
He was hanged over
Or
in the hanging thing.
And he, well, so he had a broken neck.
Yeah, he was dead.
Yeah, there's no way he was coming back, but his muscles were twitching.
But the sheriff was like, well, hey, it's enough. You might bring him back.
Where did you come across that story?
Oh, man, it was in the archives. I'm trying to think. I go to the library, go to the archives.
So you had to search for that. It wasn't like someone necessarily told you, said, well, I'm going to look for odd, because that probably would have been written up in a paper at the time, maybe, unless they kept it quiet. And the sheriff said, well, we let him do this. And we decided, okay, we're,
And Stith was an odd guy. He, it was in the paper I found, 1840s, I believe. He had a sheep with one eye, like a cyclops. Huh. Like it wasn't one eye and one bad eye.
So genetic
He was
weird
in the
thing,
middle of his forehead. It was in the newspapers. Huh. So he was kind of a weird, quirky guy. He would try to revive bodies and had a sheep with one eye, and he would show it to everybody.
Okay, the crazy people among us. Listen, we'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about that. And again, we heard from Tom, who had a question about what ghosts are. Don't know if we completely clarified it for him because there's not a clear definition. But if you'd like to share some encounter or some question or the like, the number up on the screen. If not, sit back. We're going to hear more stories from Allen right after this. We'll be right back.